Between Two Amps is proudly sponsored by Liquid Death. Right now I am enjoying a mango chainsaw.
I got some Suburbs lime. If you don't know, they have some new flavors that have come out recently,
and they're amazing.
They're really good.
Yeah, there's a little bit of agave infused in there.
Yeah.
And so it really makes those flavors pop. I'm actually really stoked on it.
Yeah, it's really good. Murder Your Thirst, by the way, that's what I do daily.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think I could possibly get through a podcast without murdering my thirst.
I agree.
I mean, really, I don't think I could riff.
Yeah.
Without murdering my thirst.
I mean,
is there anything that you can think of that you could possibly do without murdering your thirst?
No.
Yeah. Well.
Yeah. I can murder my thirst. Perfect.
Perfect.
But I definitely murder a lot of songs.
It was a perfect thirst murder.
Perfect thirst murder. Thank you. Thanks, Liquid Death. Appreciate it.
Thank you to Liquid Death.
And watch our podcast.
Yeah.
I said watch our podcast.
Yeah. Listen to our podcast.
Yeah.
Thanks, and murder your thirst.
Yep.
He was looking for a life that would give him the feeling of being worthwhile.
Welcome to another episode of Between Two Amps. We have a rad guest this week. You might know him from Spiritual Cramp, Creative Adult, Spice, and also Smirk. Give a warm Between Two Amps welcome to Mike Bingham. Welcome, Mike.
Hey guys, what's going on? Thanks for having me. I appreciate it.
Yeah, thanks for coming on.
Yeah.
Yeah, I guess started off like we start off all of them, and it's kind of starting at the beginning. What came first is kind of the chicken or the egg question. Like, did you want to become a musician and then found your way into punk, or was it was it finding punk and then getting inspired to pick up an instrument?
For us, a lot of people, it's been like skateboarding. And for me, it was skateboarding, and so it's like, it just goes from there.
Yeah, it was skateboarding for me too, for sure. I started skateboarding when I was like 12 or something like that. And there was like Slap magazine, which I didn't know what that was at the time, because like my friends were I was living in a town called Vancouver, Washington, which is, for those who don't know, it's like right across the bridge from Portland. So it's like kind of like it's a commuter town, you know what I mean? There's like, I wouldn't say there's like a lack of culture there, but like, it's a small town connected to a large town. But when you're young, you don't really get that trickle down effect from the large city just yet. So I was skateboarding, and my aunt at the time got me a subscription to Slap magazine. Slap, I believe. Yeah, Slap magazine. And that was like kind of like a more punk rock facing magazine. Like, Anti-Hero was taking out a lot of ads there.
Exactly.
And it was like kind of graffiti centric, and just kind of like there's like, kind of raunchy jokes and stuff. And like that was like first like sighting of like real subculture in a way.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like you would see like, oh, like these guys are like skateboarding in like big cities. Like I didn't know what that was at the time. Like all I knew was like the church parking lot across the street from my house, because I didn't have a car. Whatever. And then what would happen is in the summers, I would go and visit my grandparents. They lived in Santa Rosa, California, and I would go to the skate park in Santa Rosa, and I would just hang out at the skate park all day. And this one guy, like I don't remember who it was, but someone showed me what NoFX was, and then I found out about Rancid, and I didn't even at the time like in the band Tilt too, if you guys know that band.
Yeah.
But like, I didn't even know what that was at the time. I just knew that I liked music. So like, I would try to listen to music, but like, I didn't really care about it. It was just like this thing that existed in my periphery. And then what happened was, that was about like, I was like 11 or 12. And then around 14, I was in middle school in Vancouver, and I met this kid, and his name was Sam Wood. And he was from the Bay Area, but he had just moved up to Vancouver. And so and I was like, oh, well, you know, I have family that lives in, you know, Bay Area. I'm down there all the time. So there was like this connection already, right? And he was like, have you ever heard of this band called AFI? And I was like, no, like, I don't know what that is. Like, I kind of like music, but not really. I'm more of a skateboarder. They gave me Black Sails in the Sunset. And that was like the first time because my parents were not musicians, you know. They were not like they were not cultured people. They were like church people. So I really, when I found that CD, I remember I opened it up and I saw the way that they looked, right? And that was the first time I saw anyone who looked like that. And you know, they looked like a band, right? And they had cool hair, and they were like, they all were wearing kind of the same color, and like Dave had makeup on. And yeah, I just like, that was really and then I got into the lyrics, and then, you know, the thank yous. Obviously, I was like, who the fuck are the Nerve Agents? You know, who's American Nerve Agents? I didn't know what that stuff was. And so that was like my first real introduction to something that I like. I fell in love with that, and I wanted to be that when I found it. And then we got into the Misfits. You know, he showed me the Misfits, and you know, there was a band F minus who we were really into, you know, Hellcat Records, like all that really like gnarly kind of hardcore punk stuff. And then
the dude Mike, I think from F minus, was like sort of my first pseudo roommate when I moved to LA. Silver Lake.
Doesn't one of them own like a vegan food shop?
Yeah, Erica. She used to be, I think, I don't know what she played in the band, but Erica might have played guitar, and she was in she does Kitchen Mouse, I believe.
That's right.
Oh, no way. I didn't realize that.
Her sister Jen is a friend of mine who I actually met in Chicago, but this, you know, everyone knew everybody. Like, she grew up with Jared from Hope Conspiracy. They went to college. It was just like a crazy connection between all these people. But yeah, and then someone told me that's her sister who played in F minus. I was like, oh, that's cool.
With all of these bands, like, was there a record store in Vancouver, or did you have access to like a shop that had all of these records?
Man, I wish. It was like I was still just young enough, you know, I was like 15, that like I didn't have a car and I didn't have a way to go anywhere. So I was kind of restricted to this like 3-mile stretch in Vancouver. And you know, there was a Fred Meyer there, and we could go and steal CDs from the Fred Meyer. But there was no cool, it was really like based out of my high school. And like what those guys and some of their parents were like a little bit more involved, you know, in what they were doing. And they would go to Second Avenue Records in Portland, and they would bring back, like, they'd be like, look, I got this like Social Distortion bootleg. And we would just nerd out on that stuff.
That's right. So did you like, what was the catalyst for, like, I know you mentioned AFI and like seeing them as a band and like kind of putting the visual to what you were listening to? Like, what was the catalyst to like being like, oh wait, you know, I want to do this, like I can do this?
That didn't happen for a while. I kind of continued on, just like I kind of started to identify as like a punk, and you know, that was like, my friend kind of was like, he was kind of like my, you know, punk guru or whatever, and he was like, no, we're punks, man, like shave your head. And so we shaved our heads, you know, and after a while, like, I started becoming more of a punk, and then I just skateboarded on the side, and we would like kind of, I knew, I kind of like sort of tried to start playing guitar, right? But I didn't have access to any amps or anything. I had this like guitar that someone got me. My mom got me a crappy, like, it was like a Samick Stratocaster. I'm not sure if you guys are familiar with
Samick. Yeah.
Yeah.
There's a wide range of Samics too. It's like,
Yeah.
some that were actually really nice. Like,
Yeah.
at-
This
at
guitar
first-
that I had was cool. It was
Yeah.
like, but I never had an amp. So, you know what I mean? Like, it was always just like this thing that like I would like dance in front of my mirror with the guitar on more, you know what I mean? And think like, oh, that's like, it was just so far off. And then what the shift was though, that like really kind of clicked into like, oh, I can probably do this, is I was 16 and my parents sent me to live in California. Because, you know, I was like acting out of school and I had bad grades and they just didn't know what to do with me because they were having kind of a hard time in their own lives. And I moved down to California to the North Bay area in with my grandparents. And I met a couple of people in the North Bay who were kind of on the periphery of this scene, which kind of became like the North Bay hardcore scene, like, you know, that band Ceremony, obviously, and the band Lifelong Tragedy and Sabretooth Zombie. I kind of like met those guys and their band were going on tour. So like, I didn't know what touring was at that time, right? Like Lifelong Tragedy had done like a US tour and they got stuck in Chicago, right? And there was like a PayPal thing for them on this hardcore message board that someone introduced me to, right? And I was like, wait, like so they're like a band, you could be in a real band. And that's like, and then that's when it started connecting to me, you know? And then I played in a bunch of bands no one cared about, and then eventually just that's kind of, you know, that was like the catalyst of me wanting to do it.
So
go ahead.
So North Bay would be like I always forget that the Bay Area encompasses so much.
Yeah.
Right. So what I know is like Oakland, the city, San Francisco, and then like just is it called the South Bay, which would be like Silicon Valley and like shit like that.
Yeah.
And then so North like Marin and like Santa Rosa and or not Santa like Sebastopol and all that stuff up there.
Yeah, that's where we're from. We're from about an hour directly north of San Francisco.
Okay.
But even so, like in my when I lived there, like it wasn't until I was like 18 that I started going down to San Francisco and seeing things. I will say though, Niraj, before I moved down to the Bay Area, I was able to go to like a couple of shows in Portland, right?
Yeah.
Like I went and saw the Bouncing Souls play, and they took 18 Visions on tour with them, right?
Weird. Really?
Yeah, I think it was
okay.
Yeah, and I also saw your band play. I believe the tour was AN, Hope Conspiracy, I think Suicide File.
Every time I die and Suicide File.
Yeah, and I went and saw that at the Paris Theater in Portland, and I didn't know what it was at the time. I was standing in the back, being like, "This is really aggressive." You know,
they sound really angry.
Everyone's really mad.
But yeah, but then I moved down to the Bay, and then I kind of realized that like you could really try to do what you were doing at the time.
So what was the first band? So you like, and kind of what was the transition from Samick in the bedroom mirror to
hey, we're gonna play a show.
Yeah. So like the band that I played in, it was like this metalcore band. It was called Frequency Murder, and like we would play, and like, you know, all of our friends would come out and like mosh.
That's a better name than most for first bands. I'm telling you, we've heard.
It was cool. It was definitely like, it's kind of like, you know, when you like remember things you've done in the past, like, and like you just like kind of, it's really hard to have a positive association with it because
totally, I agree.
Where you were at in your life, you know what I mean? Like I was just this kid, like my parents basically just like kicked me out of the house at like 16. I was just like stealing all the time, like fucking people over. Like so it's like interesting to bring this up, you know what I mean, on like a podcast, because it's not something I really talk about. Because I'm like, well, that's like a different part of my life. But like, it was the first band that I was in that like people hardcore danced to. You know, and stuff like that. And then I started that band All Teeth, or I joined that band, and we toured for like 4 years, and you know, no one cared. I was, yeah. And that band wasn't very much fun to be in. It was just like there was a lot of interpersonal issues. Not everyone got along. So, but it is how we cut our teeth. Like a lot of us. Like I still play with Mike from All Teeth. He's in Spiritual Cramp. But like when we came out of All Teeth is when things became a little more clear for all of us, right? Like it was like the end of that period of my life that I try to pretend didn't happen, right? And just so like that's when we started doing things that like people maybe started reciprocating, like I was like 24 and we got on Run for Cover Records and like we had never like we met you guys and that's like so. And that's, I think, and then we went to Europe. Well, I guess All Teeth went to Europe too, but yeah.
So what was like? So what were you like? I guess what was kind of the evolution of your setup through all of that? Like you had the Samick, you joined the first metalcore band. Like where did you go? Were you still playing the Samick and
like? Go ahead.
Okay. So like, I don't know what became of that Samick. I wish I did. But it was like, dude, it's interesting because like that guitar that I had, like I didn't like it. It was kind of ugly.
So it's a Strat copy kind of guitar.
Yeah.
Was it humbucker bridge or was it all single coils? Like
it had 3 single coils on it. It didn't have a pick guard. And it had like this like yeah, but that's what I was like trying to be on some Billy Joe Armstrong shit at the time, I really wanted like the Strat look, and so like when I got it, like it didn't have Strat, what I mean, whatever, first world problems, but like so I don't know what became of it, but eventually I moved down to Santa Rosa and I was still playing on that. And like for years, I just didn't have money to buy a guitar or an amp. So I would just use like whatever anyone had around. Like it was like, so my friend Dan Kelly, I don't know if you guys know him.
I know Dan. Yeah, I know Dan really well.
Yeah, Dan let me. Yeah, he actually recorded that band, Frequency Murder. He let me borrow this like PV amp. It was like a half stack, and that was the first half stack I ever got. And like I just like it wasn't until All Teeth happened that I kind of like got a job. You know what I mean? I didn't like I don't know why, but yeah, I bought like a Marshall, you know what I mean, like a JCM 900. That was the first, that then I was like, oh, okay, cool. Like I'm, because you go out on tour and you start being subjected to like real bands, right? And they're like, oh, this is called a block letter 5150, and that's the first time you hear that amazing amp. So it's like it's really hard. I wish that I had like more of like a clear narrative of like what I was playing on guitar.
No, that's part of the narrative, because it's like there's some people who are like really cognizant of like what kind of gear they're playing and what kind of stuff, and there's some people who like for me, when I started playing, I had no idea about anything. I got like a friend got me a guitar from the Salvation Army that was like a Harmony, and people were like, "Oh, dude, you should have kept that thing because now it would have been blah blah blah." I'm like, dude, it was in the dumpster, And then for a while, I was just playing whatever amps people would have at the would give me, or I could borrow at the show. And I had a shitty bass for a long time. And then, like as you said, is when you started playing with more and more people or seeing bands come through town. Then I'm like taking notes here. I was like, oh, I want to sound like that band. They have a Marshall JCM 800. Is that what it's called, or whatever? Because that's how I learned. I wasn't a gear guy, and I'm still not really a gear guy. If this sounds good, I'm good, but.
I think that kind of gets lost, like especially like when we started the podcast, it was just kind of like seeing so much through like YouTube, like, oh, you gotta have this, you gotta have this. Yeah, it's like, no, you just gotta do it. You gotta write some songs, like start
Yeah,
a
it doesn't
band
matter
with
what kind
your
of guitar.
friends. Like, just do it without a pick guard or with a pick guard.
I had an acoustic guitar with 2 of the bottom strings missing, so I learned how to play Dead Kennedys like bass lines because I didn't know what a power chord was. So I was learning Dead Kennedy bass lines and like Youth Today, just like riffs. And I was like, I guess now someone's got to show me how to play a power chord. But I didn't have the rest of the strings, so that's just how I kind of started learning. So it's like everyone's got a different. So it's like, yeah, that's the cool part about the podcast. We wanted to get everyone's stories about like, oh yeah, not everyone's learned the same way. I mean,
Yeah. Like I like, dude, like I was thinking because when we were talking earlier, you're like, yeah, just like about how you learned about it, right? And you started. In my head, I'm like, well, mine's a fucking sob story. You know what I mean? Because I didn't have any money, and like my parents, no one was helping me. But like in my head, I was like, I'm gonna do this.
yeah,
And like,
yeah.
here I fucking am. I mean, I'm still doing it. You know what I mean? As we all are.
Yeah, like I never knew that I was gonna be a musician. Like I wasn't like I'm gonna be a musician. It's like I got into skateboarding, then I got super into punk, and then someone's like, "Hey, we're gonna do a band." I'm like, okay, cool. What am I gonna do? I don't play anything." He's like, "Yeah, you do. You play guitar, don't you?" And I was like, I had like a old acoustic laying around my house because my parents wanted me to take guitar lessons, and the guitar teacher was like, "Man, you don't practice. Your parents are wasting your money," so they kicked me out. Or I got kicked out of the class. But yeah, you just start. And then Fred's parents didn't even have strings. They just bought him a guitar.
You can have the guitar, can't have the strings.
Really?
Yeah. Because that makes sense. Like it was nuts. But it's just like I played through my stereo. Like it was like a component system that had like a mic in. So I just play through the receiver and jam out to Avail and like other all the Richmond bands. So
yeah,
Mike, I don't know if this was the case for you, but all the time, like in my hometown, it's like any kid who had all the coolest gear and blah 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 was the worst player.
Yeah. Oh man, I actually, that's the thing, is like the North Bay is a little bit different, like because like dude, when I got there, like RJ Phillips from Lifelong Tragedy and like Anthony and Zaldo from Ceremony, like those dudes had like Les Pauls, you know what I mean? And because I think that their parents like supported their like musical habits, which is amazing. But that was my first experience with like seeing people with real gear, and they were badass. You know what I mean? Like I thought that was so cool. And then I was like, see, I'm like a couple of years younger than like RJ. I think I don't know, but I think Zoe might be 36. Yeah.
And
so then, like after those bands, like when was it that you kind of were like, okay, you bought your JCM 900 when you got a job, right?
Yeah.
You're able to buy that gear, and like, what was kind of the first guitar that you're like, all right, I'm doing this. I got my Marshall, now I'm gonna get the guitar.
Yeah. It's I still have it. I still play it. I love it. It's a Tobacco Burst. I think it's like a 2004 Gibson Les Paul Standard.
nice.
Great guitar.
Yeah, I love it. I got it because didn't you play a Tobacco Burst custom, Niraj?
I had a Tobacco Burst for a while, but it was a standard.
It was a standard? Yeah.
Yeah.
Like anyways, like what I was really into is like that, like Boston, there were all these Boston hardcore bands, and like you guys all had like sick, nice Les Pauls.
Yeah. For who had a Tobacco Burst? I think was Brian Masick, who played second guitar in American Nightmare.
Yeah, did Masick have one?
He had a Tobacco Burst, and I think someone Caven might have played a Tobacco Burst too. I think Adam might have had Tobacco Burst. Yeah, but yeah, we were all Gibson, like a couple Fenders here and there, but I remember all of us were Les Paul people at the time.
Yeah, it's because it's cool. It's rock and roll. Spiritual Cramp, actually, we usually our guitar player will usually play. Like, I have a Rickenbacker now that I own, and he'll play that. And on this tour, we're doing the double Les Paul. We're bringing it back. And we were just talking about how like not a lot of people rock double Les Pauls anymore, and we're trying to.
I know. I know. That Rickenbacker though, that's a funny story. Is like when I first got to Boston from Chicago, I was playing Studios, which is my favorite guitar still, Les Paul Studios. And we started recording with Kurt from Converge, and he was the only guy that I knew that played a Rickenbacker. This like cool looking weird ass guitar, but just shredded on it. And then a couple of the other bands from Boston were all like Les Paul people. It's like everyone had either a standard. I remember the bass player from Suicide Fowl had a custom that I used a couple times, and it was a Sunburst Les Paul custom with the triple humbuckers in it.
Yeah.
It was sweet. Yeah. Jimmy from HopeCon still plays a Black Beauty.
Cool.
Yeah, so it was a lot of Les Pauls.
Yeah. I don't know why, but those were like the first guitars that I ever really like. And Jade from AFI played a Les Paul as well.
Oh yeah, he plays a studio for a long time.
Yeah, he did.
Yeah.
Jacob now in Spiritual Cramp is playing a white. I don't know if it's actually a studio. Jake, is your guitar a studio? I don't know. You can't hear me.
Those are like, that was one of the, speaking of Boston bands, like Brian McTurnan had it was a white Les Paul standard from the 80s that he got in Alston up there. Yeah. And Mike Schleibaum in Darkest Hour ended up with the guitar, but there was like 1 year where they made like a white standard. That thing was badass. Yeah.
I can also remember when it really, really clicked for me is when I got an Emperor cab. We just played a show in Louisville, Kentucky, and I was like looking around. I was like, you guys used to all have Emperor cabs, like all those bands, like all see Emperor from Young Widows printed our merch, and
yeah. Who did Ryan did or Evan?
Evan printed the merch, but Ryan kind of put us in touch with him.
Oh yeah. Yeah, they're totally cool dudes, and Emperor was started in Chicago.
Yeah.
And so those guys are from Chicago. So when they first started doing stuff, we're like, oh, cool, local amp company. And then it just kind of proliferated through the Midwest. So I remember that all of us I still have mine. I just got to get it all I got to put some new speakers in it. But those are fun.
Yeah, those were great. Those were that was like the pinnacle of like my hardcore touring. And then I found out about combo amps, and
so much better.
You know what I mean? I was like 25 and like saw videos of Sonic Youth playing Twins or whatever, something like that. And I was like, oh, that's even cooler, but like, because you just be able to maybe say more with less, I guess. I don't know. So I kind of like at a certain point, like my obsession with like loud, dimed, a JCM 800 50-watt dime. Do you know what I mean? Like, I think like that kind of changed. And
it's like the Twins are pretty freaking loud because like it's a 60-watt, right? For the Twins. So like it's not like it's a huge drop in volume. Like those things are loud as fuck.
Fender amps are so. I have a Blues Junior that blows my face off. It's like small ass amp, but so loud. Like I can turn it to like 3 and it's just like unbearable. Yeah. So they're loud. The whole thing, like when I was younger, I think both Fred and I, it's like, oh, we gotta have half stacks, And I don't know if Fred, since he was doing some metal tours, if you guys went full stacks.
Oh, definitely went full stacks. Definitely doing multiple heads, multiple cabs. Just because loaded.
What tour did you guys go full stacks on, Fred?
Oh, dude, we played house shows with full stacks. Like, it was like I remember like because we were kind of to blame, like the Refused last show, like because they did their last show at the house that I lived in.
That was your house, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was my bedroom actually. I lived in the basement, and we just like push my stuff to the side and then do shows. And like Refused had already decided they were done. They're leaving the middle of the tour. This was like 90. 798, something like that. And so it was like Refused, Frodus, and Darkest Hour. And we decided that we needed our full stacks in the basement. Of course, the cops show up. And raid, and like it's like it's actually in like a documentary that came out that someone had like footage of it, and like Dennis was like singing like rather be dead, like, you know, it's just like chanting that as like the cops come down the stairs into the basement and finally find the plug to the PA, and like he's still screaming after they pull the plug out of the PA. It was like, I mean, which was a cool moment. Like in hindsight, at the time, it probably would have been nice to, you know, let them finish their last show. So yeah.
Too much amplification is to blame for that.
So Darkest Hour was playing that show.
Yeah.
Wow, I've seen that footage. I know exactly what you're talking about. That's crazy. Yeah. That documentary is very dramatic, but it's very like
it is
really good.
Like when I first met Fred, I was like, and then I met Fred years ago when HopeCon played shows at Darkest Hour, but we reconnected out in LA, and he's like, and then my friend like Todd from Holy Fever and Fred were college roommates. So then they're like, oh yeah, that house was Fred's house that Refused played at. I was like, what? He's like, yeah, they broke up at fucking Fred's house.
What a trip. You saw all that. You saw.
Oh yeah. It was like, that was such a special place. Like, I don't know if this kind of like falls in line like with your experience in like Northern California, but like it was just this pocket where, I mean, I guess, you know, San Francisco is a big city, but like having that sense of community, it was just like there were so many punks at the school, like, and there wasn't real, you know, there it was isolation, so there's not a lot else to do, but like, you know, start bands, like put on shows, and like that generated like a kind of buzz that, you know, it's like we got some pretty big bands to come through and would play at people's houses, like, you know, it's like Hot Water Music and Promise Ring, and you know, it was just like metal bands like coming through. Like, was that kind of sense of community something that helped propel you more into being able to get out there and start doing the touring and you know, start bands and everything?
Yeah, like, I mean, it was just I mean, you know, like you're just figuring it out. Like it's like you're like walking around feeling the walls, trying to, you know, make sense of everything, and like you're meeting these people who you don't realize at the time, but like you're gonna know these people for like 20 years. And some of them who are total dorks are gonna go on and become like famous, you know?
Oh yeah. I can't tell you how many stories I have like that. It's crazy.
But at the time you don't know. You just think you're just around a bunch of idiots like yourself. You know what I mean? But like then you realize you're like, oh, not everyone is as like stupid as I am. You know what I mean? They like, go and make something.
Yeah, not everyone is like, you know, sacrificing, like quitting every job just because you got a tour. That's how I was for a long time.
Yeah.
And like my ex-wife, her best friend was an executive at Fox, and one of her like other executives they have their own huge offices, and he apparently had a framed HopeCon like poster from Death Knows Your Name, and he's like, oh my god, this is my favorite band of all time. And she's like, oh, that's my friend's husband. And I was like, wait, what? He's like, yeah, this executive at Fox, you know, has this like, I'm like, oh, cool. Well, I'm glad he did something with his life.
And also, like, you just like you're meeting all these because you start touring the US, right? And you just inevitably start meeting people, and like it's the same kind of thing. It's like you don't know who you're making an impact on, and you don't you don't know who likes your band, and like 5 years down the road, like, you know, you meet someone and they come up to you, and you're, you know, like with Spiritual Cramp, like sometimes I meet people who are like, I've been following everything you do for like 10 years, and they're like, I'm a huge fan. And I also work at this giant record label and like I would love to sign your band. You know what I mean? Stuff like that. Like it's like you're just kind of fumbling around until you're not. And then you realize that you're like, oh, like I'm not really fumbling around anymore. Like I know people and I like know people who, you know, want to do the same things that I want to do. And we can like, and you know, and at the time you're like, you are creating a community, like, but it's a bunch of people who are just trying to make something out of nothing. Like what you said, it's like, okay, we live in the North Bay. Like, let's like get our friends to come here and play a show at the Phoenix. And like at the time, you know, no one cared about them. But then 10 years down the road, become, you know, a band that everyone loves or something like that. And like,
yeah, totally. I mean, it is that ethic for sure. And I think, you know, you going back to, you know, we're talking about like playing shows or gear. You know, I think it's also just, you know, I would have like anytime we'd play shows like early on, like, or even like, you know, anytime I was touring, even if there was like 2 people at the show, 3 people at the show, like I would try to go crazy, you know, because you know those kids are there and they're gonna remember that show, you know, for the rest of their life. You know, I will never forget seeing At the Drive-In at the Fireside Bowl in front of like 30 people and them going ape shit crazy. And I was like, what the hell is going on right now? These guys are insane, right? And you know, like that, you know, and then like, I mean, I'm not like an exec or anything like that, like record label person, but oh yeah, you could see, you know, someone's gonna be like, this band is on another level, you know. So anytime I would play, I'd just be like, hey, you know, go off because you're having fun, but also, you know, you're playing for somebody, you know, like someone who in some small town probably doesn't get bands to come through, you know, and you're playing for them, and like it's something that they might maybe been looking forward to, or it's like their outlet for the month, you know, because I can't tell you how many small towns we played. The smaller the town, the better the turnout sometimes, because you just get kids who have nothing to do and then just come out. I mean, Fred, I think you have the same experience.
Oh yeah, like yeah, there was definitely Portland was the most notable poorly attended show I think I've ever played. There was one person there. Even the promoter left. And what was funny, it was just like that one person came to every show after that, every time we came to Portland. And I think they were still like shouting him out like every time came to Portland. And like, you know, it's you don't know who's there.
And sometimes like from those tours, I don't know if Mike, you might have got this, but you know how you have people that are saying that, oh yeah, you know, I'm following your band, your career, whatever. And that's when I started getting like gear questions.
Oh yeah.
You know, well, what'd you play on this demo, or what'd you play on this? And I was like, oh, I think I played this or this, but I'm not like yeah, so I had the mids on this set like that. I had this like set like that. You know, I just plug in. I'm like, oh shit, that sounds good. Let's do this. You know, that's kind of how I am. And sometimes gear people get bummed out because I can't give them specifics. And I'm like, I don't know the specifics, otherwise I would.
Yeah. You look to be like to give you some feedback about that. Like I always thought that you were someone who was like really, really hyper dialed on that kind of thing, because that's kind of how you look when you play. But I mean, I think maybe you just channel instead. You know, you're not worrying about that, but you're channeling the other thing, that like that force and that fear. But I always thought, like, to hear you say that and to hear you talk about how you grew up with like kind of trying to figure stuff out, just having to piece together, like that's really shocking to hear, to be honest. Because from where I was sitting, I was like, oh, this guy built this amp. You know what I mean?
No, not at all. Like, it's funny. A lot of people ask, like, "Oh, what kind of amp did you use on this?" I'm like, you know what? It's like, I don't know. And for me, like what you said is kind of feeling. For me, like hardcore and punk is all about like the feeling and the emotion you can get. And that amp, if that amp can bring that out, like that's what it is. And I don't know what the setting. I mean, I'll like take a picture of the settings, but again, every amp sounds different. You could have the same amp and it'll sound different, you know? And for me, one of my big like influences was Vic DeCara from 108, you know? And when I saw him play a fucking whatever amp and it just like, it's just screaming feedback. and no one's yelling at him to get a noise gate. I'm like, I want to sound like that. You know, just wild and kind of just like crazy. And yeah, so that's kind of like my philosophy on gear too. It's got to punch, but it's got to really bring out the emotion for it. I think that's like getting kind of meta with it, but
Totally. I think the older you get though, like the better you're able to have that control though. Like when I was young, it was like there's just wasn't something I could control, man. Like I just didn't have access to it, you know. But now, like I can have access to the gear that I think will make my band sound the best, and like,
yeah,
and so it heightens because I learned how to make up for that when I was young. I was like, okay, like, well, what I can't give you in like, you know, professional gear, like I can for sure give you in like a performance, and like,
yeah,
so I have that practiced. And now that I'm older, I'm like, oh, like, but if I purchase 2 JC 120s and have like boutique pedals going into each JC 120,
yeah.
I can really give you something slick, you know. Like,
What's Spiritual Cramp setup right now, if you don't mind? I know you're the singer, but
yeah, so we play 2 JC 120s. That's what's talking.
those are great.
That's crazy. I've actually never played through one of those.
Yeah,
like,
big pedal,
right? The jazz is
it's the Roland Jazz Chorus. The
yeah,
212.
that's my favorite reverb, by the way.
yeah.
The reverb on those amps is incredible.
Yeah. They're like, because they're solid state amps. You can throw them around, and they're like little workhorse amps. And up until like 4 years ago, right when we started using them, obviously, they got more expensive.
Of course,
They used to be able to get them for like $450, and I
Mhm.
think now they're like, what are they like? Running like 800 now.
For JC?
Yeah, how much is a JC?
Grand.
Yeah, it's like a grand now.
Are you serious? Like I bought one maybe 3 years ago for like $450.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Like it just switched.
Because no one wanted them for a long time. Because when
Yeah.
I heard of them because of the Edge from U2. That's what he's using for like 40 years, and that's like one of my favorite bands, pre-mom rock. Let's just get that
Pre-mom.
So,
Oh, Robert Smith, Jacob's right behind me. He actually uses them. He was saying Robert Smith from The Cure.
Oh, nice.
oh,
And let's not forget Metallica. All their clean sounds. I remember that was
Really?
the first time I'd seen them. Like in the one video, like they had 2 full stack, you know, like Marshall 412s, and then the JC 120s on top of the full stacks. So like they were doing amp switching between, you know, I believe at the time it was like the Mesa Mark heads and then the JC 120s. But I remember when that came out, like I saw a couple, like there was a little spike there for a minute on the price.
Yeah, it's a great amp. What were you and so in Spice now? What are you playing in Spice? I know you just started playing with them recently, right?
Kind of. I've been playing in Spice for like 2.5 years.
Oh, okay.
It's just the band, like I basically, they released that record, and they had our other friend RJ from Lifelong. He was playing with them and he passed away. Rest in peace. But they asked me, because we're all like really good old friends from like
yeah.
And they asked me to take a spot. So basically, like right after the band released that record, but it was just in the middle of the pandemic anyway, so we weren't doing anything.
Yeah.
But I helped them write a lot of music. Like we wrote like the whole new LP that's coming out.
Cool.
Yeah, what do I use with them? I just play. So I've been playing. My friend Nick has a white Stratocaster that I use in Smirk. He lets me use it in Smirk, and he hasn't asked for it back since like our last.
Yeah, those are the best friends. I love those friends.
Yeah, he doesn't care, and so I just every time Spice has been playing, I'm like, hey, is it okay if I just use this? And he's like, oh yeah, whatever. Like, and also that kind of speaks to like that's kind of how I've always operated. You know what I mean? It's like I have this guitar and it's like my friend's guitar. You know, earlier I had Dan Kelly's amp. It's like that's just kind of how I still do it.
Yeah.
I mean, I do have my own, guitars as well, but that one I really like it. So I've been playing out of that. And then I have a twin 212, and a hot rod DeVille that we use for Spice. And I use the DeVille, and Ian, our guitar player, uses the twin.
So what is it? Like, do you know what the years are on the amps, or like what general?
They're not like
I didn't know if it was like a reissue twin or like
reissue Silverface. Listen to this. So so my friend Chris, he sang in a band called Richard Rose, and he sang in a band called X Cult. He sings in a band called Gogs. Which is a bunch of real cool, like hip punk stuff, kind of garage punk stuff. I think his wife, his baby mama, is a booking agent. I think I don't want to go like too far into like, because maybe I'm pretty sure he seems like an honest guy though. So here's what happened. I saw that he was selling an amp on Instagram. He was selling like a brand new reissued twin. And I needed an amp, and I hit him up, and I was like, "Hey, what's up? How much do you want for this?" And he was like, "How's like 450 sound?" And I was like, "That sounds really good." I heard you have another amp for sale, and he was like, "Oh yeah, I like have this amp for sale," and like it's the DeVille, and it's brand new, like literally out of the box. Both these amps are out of the box, and I was like, this was like just like a little bit ago, and because I didn't have any amps, and and then he was like, well, what about 650 for both? And I was like, I'll be right there. So I got in my car and ran to his house as fast as I could.
Dude, that is a deal, man.
I told him, I was like, "Are you sure?" And he was like, "Yeah, dude, just come get him. I got to get him out of my house." I was like, so I owe him big time.
That's awesome.
That is awesome. That is a good gear story for sure.
So pedal wise, like what are you typically running into? Like, I mean, I guess for any of the projects, like.
Yeah, I'm not gonna tell you what.
I know it's secret sauce.
Yeah, you don't have to tell us your guitar player secrets, but what about you as like on your project that where you're playing?
I know what I can talk about, what I can't. So for Spiritual Cramp, I'm not gonna tell you what pedal we use to get this. Like, there's this buttery ass guitar tone that we get. Everyone always asks us about it, and it's just kind of that's a little on the low. You know,
all good.
Yeah, we use but I'll say this. We use the 2-knob one or the 3-knob one. I think ours. Yeah, there's a model where they have there's 2 knobs, and there's a model where there's 3 knobs, and the older ones that are hard to find have 3 knobs, and that's the one we're using. So, if you can figure that out.
I think Fred Fred's a pedal nerd, so he's probably already knows.
Yeah. Do you think you know which one, Fred? Do you think you know what it is?
I might. But I'm not going to say anything. I have an idea.
Yeah. We use the 2-knob one. You can just tell me, and I'm not gonna tell you if it's right or not. What does it start? What does it start with? Do you think you know?
Man,
starts with an H.
Oh, it starts with an H.
Oh, he didn't like that. He said, "Oh, come on, man." All right. But it might not.
It might not. Who's to say? Who's to say? No one really knows.
And then Jake uses like DD6 delay. I use with Spice. I keep it simple, man. I use a tube screamer. Yeah. I know that's really boring.
So well, I mean that it's actually not really. I love the green pedal. So what tube screamer do you use?
Dude, I have no idea. It's so old.
Is it like a Maxon or an Ibanez or?
It's an Ibanez one.
Okay.
My friend gave it to me, dude. It was when I was in Creative Adult, and I still have the same one on my pedal board. It's been like 8 years. I use that. I use MXR chorus pedal, DD6. You know what I do? You know what I'm a huge advocate of that not a lot of people rock is a volume pedal. And I have the tuner on its on its own little channel, so you can pop the volume off and then just tune in between songs. It's such a powerful tool because I've never been good at swelling using the volume knobs.
Yeah.
But
I was using a volume pedal for a long time. Not hardcore bands, but other bands I was doing, I used a volume pedal for a long time.
Yeah.
Comes in handy.
I've also started doing live looping with Spice. I have just this like looping pedal that like Ross doesn't like to talk in between songs. And it's not his style. Were you at the I know we didn't connect. You didn't go to the ceremony. We had a funny moment about the Spice one. Did you go to the ceremony?
No, that was like I was somewhere. I had something going on. I forgot what it was. But you guys did a show at the theater, right? The same theater, like last week.
Yeah, and for that show, Ross was like, "Yeah, you can't have any quiet silence in between the songs," and like, you kind of like have to tune your guitar.
Yeah.
So like I learned how to do just these little things. What I'll do is I just loop the last 3 notes of the song, and I have the volume on the looper really low. So I loop it really quick and then just kick it on, and it'll just play the same kind of monotonous thing really quick.
Yeah, the first band that I ever saw, Snapcase used to do that, and I was just like, whoa, that's it's such a little thing, but super pro.
Yeah, it'll definitely change the element of a whole set. You know what I mean?
Yeah. We used to HopeCon started doing that with Death Knows Your Name. We had one of the Boss loopers, and we looped the sample of the pigs through that pedal when we even during one of the songs where it comes on, and then even in between songs. Yeah, so it's pretty cool. Those looping pedals are really cool. And this project I'm doing right now, one of the guitar players loops live.
Yeah, we're Mike, our bass player. What kind of pedal is that, Mike, that you use for the looping?
Oh, it's just the loop station.
Yeah, he has a loop station that he uses, and we start off the set with a sample, and then we play 2 songs, and we'll have a little talking break, and then we'll play 3 more, and then we'll go into another sample that'll give us all a little bit of time to breathe.
Nice.
And then we walk off and we kick on a song from the looping station. We kick on the it's called? It's the police theme. What is it? Cops theme song. We walk off. It's like bad boys.
What are you gonna do?
Yeah, that's so sick. Do you live in Richmond?
What's that?
No, you live in Richmond?
I grew up at high school. I was Army brat, so we moved around a lot. But Richmond from high school through college was kind of home base. I'm in Los Angeles now. So.
Oh, you live in LA? Wonderful.
Yeah.
Okay,
I live right behind Fred right now. So he's in the front house. I'm in the back house.
Oh,
you're
really?
in the back penthouse.
I'm back penthouse. Sorry. Yeah.
Got it.
And so, what was I going to ask? I was going to ask you something related to that. Spiritual Cramp. Oh yeah, where are you guys in Detroit? What venue you guys playing tonight? You guys?
We played last night. We played Sanctuary.
I don't know that one.
Yeah, you're playing there coming up. Are you still in Darkest Hour?
No, I'm not doing it. That's the Zayo show, the Darkest Hour Zayo tour. Yeah.
I was gonna bring that up. I had that one right. I was like, actually, you're playing there. Yeah, it's cool. It's there's what was it, a 200 cap room probably?
Yeah, nice.
Okay. Yeah, it was fun. It's with Angel Dust. It's good. It's freezing cold here right now.
Oh, I don't doubt it. It's all of my Detroit experiences have been it's either Harpo's, St. Andrews, or have you ever done Harpo's?
No.
Oh,
We've always done St. Andrews and the Shelter.
Harpo's was the only time our tour manager was just no one's allowed to go outside unless they have a buddy, and basically don't, because people will get shot at going into the theater, bottles thrown at them, there's been stabbings and stuff, because there's a footbridge that comes across, and then there's
I guess
From the
Detroit,
highway and stuff. Yeah.
downtown Detroit has whole revitalization, so I don't think the place
Yeah.
is like that, or maybe, but
I think Harpo's is kind of out, so it's like a
okay.
weird area. But
How many shows you guys got?
I think this run is like 16 shows.
Mhm.
And we just
Did you guys
finished up
play-
a run of like 12.
Did you guys play Chicago at all on this one?
We just played Chicago, yeah.
Oh, where'd you guys play?
What was that called?
Cobra Lounge or
Sleeping Village.
Sleeping Village?
Yeah, it was awesome.
I
We
haven't-
played Mercury Lounge last time we were there.
Okay, I haven't. I mean, I'm back just to visit. I grew up there, so my family and stuff is there, and like, so I know all the. But there's so many new places that are opening up, so I don't know.
Chicago is a city that we have always been pretty well received in since we started. I don't know why, but yeah, the venue was awesome. It was a 350 cap venue. The
Mhm.
woman who ran it, her name is Kyle, if you guys know her.
Mm.
Yeah, it's beautiful. It's like there's like an upper level and a lower level, and the floor was just a little bit slanted, so no matter where you were standing in the room, you can see and hear the bands perfectly.
That's awesome.
That's awesome.
Where? What neighborhood is it?
Oh gosh, I have no idea.
I'll look it up.
Yeah, and also I will say that there were like 5 other shows in Chicago. Tijuana Panthers was playing.
Mhm.
Jawbreaker was playing. Story So Far and Joyce Manor were playing. And then there was a hardcore show at the Subterranean spot.
Okay. Yeah.
And our show was cracking. I was so, and all
That's
my friends I talked to at Jawbreaker and like the story show.
Yeah.
They're like sold out. I'm like, how did I have this many people here? Like, crazy.
Yeah.
Chicago goes off.
Yeah,
Yeah,
the thing
it
about
really
Chicago is, like,
does.
everybody's into like different kind of subgenres of underground music, so it's always like, oh, that show's gonna be packed no matter what. That show's gonna be packed no matter what.
Yeah.
That's
I was
awesome.
fucking shocked.
I'm glad you guys are having a good tour so far. So, Mike, one, I guess, last question, I guess, before we can, is when you're on tour, like say when you're playing in a band, right? Like, what is one piece of gear that you're like, man, I kind of have to have this with me? It doesn't matter. Like you say, like sometimes you could show up and using a friend's guitar, or sometimes you show up using a friend's amp or whatever, but you're like, oh God, I need this,
That's so hard because I'm such like a a fluid person as far as like and I don't care, dude. I like
you can make it work basically.
I'll make anything work, dude. Like I mean, like I don't know, like I could give you like some stupid sentimental response, my Les Paul, but like I don't give a shit about my Les Paul. You know what I mean? I don't fucking care. I just want to play for the show. Like if the fucking have to like, I mean, yeah, I don't know. I don't think I have like a good answer for that. Do you guys have like?
Yeah. I mean, I don't have a.
Yeah.
You don't have to have a sentimental response. I don't have one. I mean, the thing I need just a tuner. If I don't have actually, I don't need a tuner. I actually don't even need a tuner.
That's what I'm saying.
I'll get yelled at, but
no, I already know what an ace sounds like. You know what I mean? I can tune by ear, dog. Like I learned how to tune guitar from a tuning fork. Like I guess a guitar pick. Like I guess a guitar pick or a tuner. Like you know what I mean? Yeah, like I can't play a show without a pick.
Yeah.
I've borrowed picks too. I get yelled at a lot of times because I'm just and I play really thin picks, so everyone like yells at me. It's like, dude, no one's got your picks, blah blah blah. I'm just like, all right, well, anyways.
Yeah, like I don't give a shit. I just want to play a show. Like, I mean, obviously I want to play a show with like my Les Paul into like my pedal board into exactly what I want. But like, do I actually like? Is it gonna affect me being able to do the thing that I know how to do? Absolutely not. Like I'll do that. I'll do that
regardless.
Yeah. I just I had one funny story. I was on the west side at a bike shop, and I was talking to one of the guys that worked there. He's like, yeah, I play in a punk band too. Like, yeah, it was like we were gonna play the show the other night, and we didn't get a sound check and they didn't have any monitors, so like we didn't play. I was just like,
I was like, you're not a punk
you're
band.
not in a punk band, okay?
It's crazy. Yeah, dude, like that's what I'm saying. Like we've all been in this situation where we're just like, yo, like it doesn't matter what the circumstances are here. We're gonna play really well because like that's what you do if you're really, really into doing something. You learn how to be so fluid that the circumstances don't affect your ability to do something that's impressive to people.
Yeah, exactly. And I think that's a major thing about like a lot of bands with gear, whether it's like you show up to a show, something's not working, you make it work, and you still fucking give it 100%. At least that's my philosophy.
Oh, how about this? How about my answer is like working gear?
That
You know what I mean? Because that will fuck my whole vibe up on stage. Like if you're like dealing like try like that's like, that's when you can't do the thing because you can't be fully absorbed in what you're doing.
Exactly.
It's not because what you're doing is not happening.
right.
So working gear.
A good sound guy.
That's good. That's
a good sound guy too, but like
that's more nice to have, I think. Like,
that's a nice.
Yeah, like but working gear, that's the best answer I've heard yet. Like the last tour, like I went out as playing bass for Prong, and I went through 5 different heads on that tour. Like, and it turned out the cab had like just this residue built. It was a SVT cab, and finally like took out the module in the back of it and put like degreaser in it, and it was just this black sludge like coming out of it. But the effect was it kept cut. Like as soon as the head would get to, any of the heads got to like operating temperature, it would like liquefy what was in the cabinet, so it would just start cutting out. And it was just like, I was doing it as a hired gun. So there was definitely some spirited conversations had in the middle of sets. Like, get your shit to work. It was like,
I'm the king of broken gear, by the way.
Oh, you are?
Oh yeah. Every time something goes wrong with my gear all the time. And I'm just like, it happened this weekend. And I was like practicing with the band. And I was like, God damn, what the fuck is going on here? It's like every time. And it's just, now it's a running joke. Oh, Nor's gear's not working. Surprise, surprise.
Like, I just think that like you should figure that. I'm not telling you.
I totally get it. Yeah.
But no, I think that people should figure that stuff out beforehand. Because it's like really easy to be like, okay, I'm going to make sure that all of my gear is in working order here before. Because walking on that, like, there's nothing that will like ruin your experience with a band, like technical. You're like, damn, like, that was really hard to watch. Like, I'll see you later. Like,
dude, it's like watching a domestic dispute. It's just like,
yes, it is. It is.
It's just like no one feels good at the end of that.
No, it's like really like, oh man, like, and then you see them later and you're like, good, like, and they're like, oh,
sorry, man.
No. Right.
Do we talk about what just happened?
Yeah, totally.
Well, thanks, Mike. We really appreciate you taking some time off tour and chatting with us.
Yeah, guys, thank you so much.
This is a blast. Are you ever down in Los Angeles, or do you live down here? No,
I live in Los Angeles. Yeah.
Oh hell yeah, dude! Let's get a party going.
Yeah, I'd love to.
Yeah, man. Awesome.
We're gonna do a show. We're gonna do a show at our house.
Yeah, we'll play.
Yeah, we've got some heavy hitters as neighbors. Like they've actually played one of our podcasts before. With they have quite the subwoofer for the
so it just bleeds through while we're doing a podcast. Yeah.
Oh, okay. I thought you were like trying to like hint that your neighbors are in a massive band.
But no.
Got it.
No, they're in a massive something, but not a band.
On that note, thank you so much.
All right, man.
Really.
Yeah, thanks, guys.
Be safe on tour, man.
Yeah.
Yeah, thanks.
All right,
I'll talk to
take
you
care.
guys. I'll talk to you both soon. I appreciate it.
Yeah. Awesome.
Later.
See you.
All right, guys. Bye-bye.
Bye.